And the Bucs hope that this will be their first victory ever.
We have a great area, a growing area, in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Sarasota, Bradenton, Lakeland, and Winnehaven, and even Wachoo. Over 2 million fans, and it's the fastest growing area in the United States.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, live from Tampa Stadium. For the first time ever in a regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers entered the stadium with numbers in both the win and loss columns. The Buccaneers came onto the field to a wild standing ovation from the some 60,000-plus fans at Tampa Stadium. They did not introduce any players individually. The PA announcer said, ladies and gentlemen, your Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Welcome to San Diego, California, Super Bowl 37. It is Tampa Bay versus the Oakland Raiders.
Third down, 18, dropping Gannon, looking Gannon, throws up in the head to the side, at the 40, Derek Brooks 30, Brooks to the 25, 20, Derek Brooks all the way, there it is, the dagger's in, we're going to win the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady signing with the Tampa Bay Bucs tomorrow. Holy hell.
Everyone always says, why the Bucs, man? Why do you choose the Bucs? And it was a no-brainer.
Brady has all kinds of time, throws toward the end zone. It is a caught ball. Touchdown, Tampa Bay, Mike Evans. 8 seconds, 7 seconds. Brady to throw, throws a deep pass downfield. Got Scotty Miller in the open, makes the catch. Touchdown, Tampa Bay.
Super Bowl 55 will be underway at Raymond James Stadium. Here's the snap out of the gun. Play action fake pass to Gronkowski. He's going to score a touchdown. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Holy guacamole. Bucs are the Super Bowl champs. They can't stop the clock. And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the 48-yard line. Second down, 13. Brady lobs one downfield. Caught ball by Gronkowski inside the 20 to the 15-10. Gronkowski to the 5 to the 4-yard line. Holy guacamole.
Here's the snap. Pressure coming from the outside. Brady throws a pass. Caught ball first out of the 50. Outside the numbers 40. To the 30-yard line. To the 25. And Perriman. Bashaud Perriman. Touchdown Tampa Bay. Bucs win in overtime.
This is the Big Nasty. Yeah, Big Nasty. Hall of Fame Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, baby.
This is Mike Allstott, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you're listening to the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Cannon Fire Podcast, brother. You ain't listening, and you're missing out. Woo!
And there the cannons go. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Live on YouTube today. And, it's a very special day. Actually, I don't know if a lot of people know this. For Buck fans far and wide, for myself, for Evan Wanish. Actually, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew. Joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host, the Philly Bucks fan himself, Mr. Evan Wanish. Words are hard sometimes. But as I was saying, folks, it's actually a very special day today. Because 2 years ago today, a little-known quarterback named Tom Brady decided to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The news broke 2 years ago today that he was going to be leaving the New England Patriots. And before the end of the day, Jeff Darlington floated out a report, a lot of other people believed it as well, that said there is no official announcement made, but Tom Brady is expected to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer for the 2020 season. And the rest, as they say, is history. Welcome back to the show. Evan, how are you doing, my friend? We have got so much to talk about today.
Yeah, for the second straight show, we got a lot to talk about, a lot to uncover. So excited to get into it. Obviously, happy St. Patrick's Day to anybody who's celebrating it. I'm not Irish. I'm wearing a green shirt just because. But yeah,
I don't have any green on. I guess I made the mistake of not busting any of that. I feel like the red beard should be enough cover for me, right?
Yeah.
Like people should know not to pinch me when you see just this.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you kind of look like a leprechaun anyway.
Right.
If it was like, like an angry leprechaun. Yeah.
I'll tell people I'm the mascot, dude. I mean, like,
yeah.
It's
just
easy.
tell them you're like Notre Dame's mascot.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. Okay, yeah. So
and then I fight him because that's what he's doing in the.
Yeah, he's putting up the fisticuffs, man. So yeah, obviously, Tom Brady. It's hard to believe it's been 2 years. It really is hard to believe. It feels like it's been about 2 months. But it's hard to believe the amount of stuff we've been through in that span.
Right.
Whether he was signing, and then the Gronkowski stuff, and then the draft, and then the actual season, and then the Super Bowl, and then the off season, and then the season again, and then the AB stuff, and then the playoffs, and then he retires, and then he doesn't retire. It's just so much stuff, and it's hard to believe all that fit into a span of 2 years. As Mikey gives us $10 super chat.
Let's go, Big Mike. That's what I'm talking about, my friend. Thank you so much for donating to the Wendy's Fund. He said, I was so scared the Brady signing was going to fall through or something because of all the time we had to wait for his physicals and to sign the papers because of COVID. And that's actually a really good point. Just to kind of sidebar here, if you guys haven't checked out the book, A Season in the Sun, I'm blanking out on the author's name right now, but it is
Lars
a great
Anderson.
book. Say it again.
Lars Anderson.
Okay, Lars Anderson, A Season in the Sun. Check it out. It's basically the inside story on how that 2020 team came about. Jason Light, Bruce Arians, their point of view from going to get Tom Brady to finding out that they got Tom Brady and then everything else that happened afterwards. But that was one of my favorite details of how all of that went down. Was Tom Brady was up in New York and the paperwork was sent up there for him to sign. Now, was it Jason Light's? It was his brother, his cousin?
I think it was his brother-in-law, I believe.
Right. Somebody who was up in New York. And Jason Light made it very clear. He said, quote, do not F this up. Only because of the uncertainty of the pandemic at the time. This is Tom Brady. Like, could you imagine for 5 minutes the weight that this guy must have felt driving over the paperwork to Tom F. and Brady? Also, making sure that he signs it, gets a picture of it, all of that stuff. But on top of that, making sure that he's safe and, since there wasn't a whole lot of knowledge about COVID at the time, making sure the last thing you want to do is hang around too long, get a little bit too close, and all of a sudden the Buccaneers' new star quarterback has got a case of the COVID-19. But luckily, all of that seems like a thing of the past now. And as we've been saying, the rest is history. But really, really good book. And if you love hearing stories like that, it's such a great perspective. So make sure you go check it out. Season in the Sun. Had some other questions in the live chat. Wanted to address those really quickly. Shout out to everybody in here right now, by the way.
Yeah.
It's 5 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. We kind of just decided to go live again, talk about the latest free agency, which of course we'll be covering over the next hour or so. But once again, thank you to Mikey for dropping the $10 super chat. Tano Game says, hey guys, how do you feel about Julio? He's injury prone, but he might be a good addition. And to be honest with you, I kind of wanted to save this one towards the end of the video, but given the nature of the NFL, given the nature of free agency week, before this show is over, he very well could have a new team. But it has been reported that Tom Brady himself is actively trying to recruit Julio Jones to come to Tampa Bay. Julio Jones, we know he's not what he was 5 years ago in Atlanta. He was just released from the Titans after spending a season there. A little bit of an underwhelming season. He's been battling injury for what feels like, years. Even when he was in Atlanta, he didn't play the Bucs because he was dealing with injury all season long. So what do you think, Evan? It's been made pretty clear that Tom Brady himself is going out there and doing his damnedest to not only bring in new free agents, but help the Bucs retain the ones that they still have yet to sign. But he's made it clear what his intentions are, and he is no doubt being as aggressive as he possibly can. This is what seems like Tom Brady in his purest form, but now that he's handling unfinished business, now that he is a man on a mission, this is just insane to hear about, to be honest.
Well, first off, I want to start by saying it was by Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless had said that a source that is close to Julio told him that Julio received a DM from Tom Brady saying, come down to Florida, Sunshine State. Real quick before I get into it, want to give a shout out to Akeem. He's watching from Jamaica, so thank you, Akeem. So it made headlines because it's Julio Jones, right? It's in his prime, it's one of the best receivers of all time. But like you said, 5 years ago, yeah, it would have been big time. Now, not so much. He's dealt with a lot of injuries. When he's been on the field, he hasn't been that bad. He's been pretty productive, but he has dealt with a lot of injuries. Played in 9 games in 2020, and then played in 10 games this past year. It just wasn't 2020. He was okay. He had 771 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns. Then this past season, 434 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. So he's been okay. It's just he hasn't been on the field a lot. And then a lot of people are going to ask, well, why would you go out and do this? They just brought back Russell Gage. I mean, not brought back, but they just brought in Russell Gage. It's
and they didn't just bring in Russell Gage on a 1-year rental like they have
They paid Russell Gage.
Yeah, they paid him really good money for a wide receiver 3. So like that's your guy. Also, Chris Godwin got his deal. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the pod too. But it really does seem like from a team building perspective, and it's funny that we still use team building here because, with the Bucs, it's like you're putting together a team of all-stars, it feels like. But, I mean, as it sits right now, they are ridiculously stacked at the wide receiver position. Now, we've said before that the depth at wide receiver, it got exposed last year. But listen, if you take any NFL team, even if they're known for their wide receiver core, if 4 out of the 6 starters are injured, it's going to be kind of tough to live up to that reputation. So the Bucs are addressing that clearly. But
and then that's exactly why Tom Brady knows. Like he doesn't want to be throwing to Scotty Miller and Brashad Perryman in the divisional round anymore.
Brashad Perryman also came back. We'll touch on that.
We'll talk about it. So just I don't think it's going to happen, right? We're not saying that, it's definitely going to happen. I would probably guess it's not going to, simply because, one, I think Julio is going to be looking for a little bit more money and a little bit of a bigger role. In Tampa, his role would be either the wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4. But, I mean, from his perspective, if you were to sign, you could look at it as this is a guy who, like I said, has been injured. If he has a less role, that's less risk of injury because it would be less of a workload. So, a chance at a ring, maybe it makes sense. However, I wouldn't count on it. I don't think it's going to happen, especially with the Bucs bringing back Brashad Perryman as well. It just feels like they're comfortable with what they have. Maybe they draft the guy, but I'd be surprised if they sign anybody. But it was definitely noteworthy. Yet again, Skip Bayless, so maybe take it with a grain of salt. But we'll have to wait and see. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. And who knows, anything can happen at this point. I'm not going to completely rule it out because every time we do that, it seems to, just backfire completely on us. So,
well, as we take a look around the NFL and talk about some more big name free agents who were released, our buddy John in the live chat brings up Fletcher Cox from Philly was released today. That's a former Pro Bowl D tackle. It's obviously a guy with a little bit of juice left in the tank. We talked about the Bucs wanting to get younger along the defensive line. So, again, a guy like Fletcher Cox, while he is proven talent, it does seem a little bit more like a stopgap 2-3 year guy at best. But what are your thoughts on somebody like that maybe coming and helping out along the D-line?
So this time of year, one of my biggest pet peeves, and it happens with every fan base, a player gets released.
Hey, there's a name we recognize.
Joe Smith gets released. Oh, the Bucs should sign him. John Williams got released. Oh, but Bucs should sign him. It happens every single time. And normally I'm like, okay, they don't need to sign every single player that is released. They don't have to. I'm sorry. Okay, they're not going to have a roster full of 150 players. Not every person available in the trade market needs to come to Tampa. But however, in this situation, I do think Fletcher Cox should be on their radar. I do think that he's a really good player. I've watched him pretty close because I've seen a lot of Eagles games. I just think that he's not the same player. He's not the same player that he was 3 or 4 years ago, but he's still a useful player, and he fits the profile that Arians had said they were looking for at the combine. They said, when talking about the interior defensive line, they were talking about more pass rush there, that they needed more pass rush from the interior, and that would help them out a lot. And It'll be interesting to see what happens with Fletcher Cox, because there's some talk maybe he could just re-sign in Philly. Maybe it's a cap thing. But I mean, you're talking about getting younger. That would be getting younger technically. Ndamukong Suh's 35, Fletcher Cox is 31, so it would be getting younger, and also like Fletcher Cox would be replacing Ndamukong Suh most likely. That's why I brought up that name. He's a guy I'd look out for. I don't know if they're gonna have the money. I don't know what he's gonna look for. He might just re-sign in Philly. Who knows? But I do think he could be a fit, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. But that'd be one that I would certainly be interested in. I just don't know if they will be.
Two drastically different players here, so I don't even know if it's worth the conversation. But interior defensive lineman from Philly, I always get a little weary because you remember when we brought in Vinny Curry, and like he was kind of
he was a defensive end though.
Yeah, again, two different players, two different points in their careers, but like I remember Vinny Curry coming in was very underwhelming for the most part.
Well, and also Vinny Curry was always like solid, but he was never like Fletcher Cox was great.
He's a game changer. Right? Yeah. He has the ability to just take over a drive or take over a play, and that's what the Bucs are going to need there in the middle. Now, as far as getting younger, 31 years old to everybody else who's on there, it is technically getting younger, but I feel like if you're already starting to invest in the team for when after Tom Brady is gone, like Chris Godwin, 3-year deal. Russell Gage, 3-year deal. A lot of guys getting deals seems like they're locked down for the future, and that's kind of what you want to do at that position, but as far as getting younger, I just don't know if signing a Fletcher Cox at 31 years old, while he is technically younger, I agree with a lot of what you said. I just don't really know if that's the best route they could take from here.
I mean, I think they're going to try to win a Super Bowl this year. So, yeah. I mean, if it's the best route to win a Super Bowl this year, why not? I mean, especially when the interior defensive line class is not strong. Like, it really isn't. Everybody's going to say, well, what about Jordan Davis? Jordan Davis is essentially Vita Vea. Like, it's a nose tackle. It's not everybody wants to see them draft an interior defensive lineman. The interior defensive line draft classes from the last 2 seasons have not been good. Like they haven't been good classes. It hasn't been the luck of the draw. So, we'll have to wait and see. I think Cox would make a lot of sense. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what type of money he'll be looking for. But if the Bucs are gonna make one more like big splash, kind of, I guess you could say, like a top tier free agent, to me, it would be somebody like Fletcher Cox.
So let's go ahead and take a look at what the Bucs have done to retain some of their own players here. We'll talk about the transactions. The last time we talked to you guys was on a live stream 2 days ago. And since then, I mean, literally just so much has happened with this team. I think the last transaction at the time was the Buccaneers trading for Shaq Mason to play at offensive guard. Incredible move by Jason Light to really only secure that guy for a 5th-round pick. Cannot get over that. But let's jump into the latest in the red and pewter. So we'll go chronologically, basically the timeline of things that have happened between the last time we talked to you and right now. The first move they made, they brought back wide receiver Brashad Perryman on a 1-year deal. Not really sure what his salary is off the top of my head. Hopefully you can help me out. But as far as wide receiver depth goes, I don't think you can go wrong with Brashad Perryman, right?
He's safe. Yeah, it's
safe. He had the best play of the season last year. Overtime, game winner.
Probably. Yeah, probably. There's a lot of them, so it could be up for debate. But yeah, probably one of them for sure. Obviously, I mean, like I said, he's safe. He's safe depth. He's not going to hurt you. If he's your wide receiver 4, okay. If he's your wide receiver 5, it's great. Like, if you're able to add either somebody in draft or you sign somebody and Perryman becomes your wide receiver 5, then, you're looking at a very deep, wide receiver room. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. He's not going to cost a lot. I don't know exactly what his salary is either, but I'm sure it's either the vet minimum or a little bit over that. He's not going to cost a ton. He knows the offense. He's familiar with it, and the coaching staff likes him. So, yeah, very, very safe signing.
Let me ask you a question about the Buccaneers' current wide receiver room as well. So I'm going to run you down. I think it's 7 or 8 wide receivers they have on the roster currently. I want to say it's 8. But let me run down this list, and we'll figure it out here in a second. And I'm curious, one of these guys is going to have to go. Like, unfortunately, there's going to be a familiar name. Maybe 2, right? there's going to be a familiar name or two the Bucs are going to have to let go of in that wide receiver room, and that's okay because it's not like we've been using them all to their best potential anyways, but let me run down the list here and we'll kind of figure it out. Mike Evans, not going anywhere. Russell Gage just signed a 3-year deal, not going anywhere. Chris Godwin just signed a 3-year deal. We'll talk about that here in a second. Not going anywhere. Rashad Perryman brought back on a 1-year deal. He should be fine. Here are the four.
Most likely, he could, if he like struggles in camp and somebody else outperforms him, maybe. But like safe bet is Perryman makes the roster.
So here is the big four, in my opinion, because obviously some moves yet to be made, but one of these four guys, if not two out of these four guys, is going to be gone. I don't think it is this one. We'll start with this, but Jalen Darden, more of a returner role than a wide receiver role, but it seems like he'll be back next season because he is going into his second season, and you explained it to me to where if the Bucs were going to move on from him, it's more of a cap casualty than anything else.
Yeah, it's actually not a casualty; it's a negative.
A casualty for the Bucs, I guess, because they'll be losing money.
Yeah, they actually would be. Yeah, they would. Their cap space would go down the amount of space they have if they were to release Darden after 1 year because he's a 4th-round draft pick. A lot of people forget he is a 4th-round draft pick. So if you were to cut him right now, it would actually result in a negative cap, transaction. So, and also they need who else is going to return if they cut Jalen Darden? Who else on this roster right now do you look at and say, oh, there's the kick returner? I understand that Darden struggled. I understand he wasn't good, but who else on there has done it in the past? Nobody. I mean, I don't know anybody. But I would be surprised if he were cut. I would be surprised just because of the two reasons we just mentioned. One, they literally lose money, and two, he does something that the others don't, that they don't have currently.
So these last three guys, I'm going to just kind of group them together. And then I think what we'll do is I'm going to have you rank them by the order of importance to this team. So we'll go, your number one has the least amount of chance of getting cut. Here we go. Tyler Johnson, Scotty Miller, Surreal Grayson Jr. Those are your final three receivers on this team. At least one of them is probably going to have to go.
Yeah, I don't think Grayson's going.
I think it's going to be the chemistry that he was able to put together with. I think a lot of people discredit Surreal Grayson for what he was able to do last season. I mean, if any of our wide receivers stepped up at the tail end of last season, Mike Evans is one to talk about. But Surreal Grayson, man, like those last two regular season games, he's come a very long way from the helmet doink, because we all remember that very well.
Yeah, it's gonna be that's tough. Because Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson, they bring two different aspects. Scotty Miller is like we always talked about, a one-trick pony that does something that the Bucs really don't have. The Bucs don't have one of them receivers that has top end speed like Scotty Miller does. Like they have the wide receivers that are fast, but nobody that can run like Scotty Miller. So that's a tough one. And Tyler Johnson really fits the mold for the type of receiver they typically look for, like a Chris Godwin, that possession type receiver, run after the catch, is a blocker, can do a couple of different things, can play inside, outside. That's tough, and that's going to really come down to who is better in camp. If I had to guess right now, if I had to choose one to cut, if I had to guess, I would say probably Scotty Miller. I think they've kind of seen enough of him. Maybe they try and sneak him on the practice squad. It won't work, but you could try to sneak him on the practice squad. But I mean,
unless he's your designated, guy that you keep every single week. I don't think he lasts very long.
Teams can, unless Scotty Miller declines it, teams can still that's only there's 1 day per week that you can take anybody from a practice squad.
Yeah.
So I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But it'll be interesting. That's obviously a battle that you're looking for. Mikey with another $10 super chat. Really appreciate you today,
fella.
Mikey. He goes, Scotty Miller, got to go. He will always be remembered for that NFC Championship game, but he's only good for running straight. Whenever he's lined up, defenses automatically know where Scotty's going. It's a good point. It's a point we've brought up on the podcast a lot. And like I said, appreciate the super chat again, Mikey. But yeah, he is a guy who just runs straight a lot of the time. He doesn't do a lot of other stuff. The Bucs have wanted him to make those sort of grimy, tough catches, and he really hasn't. But I also don't think the Bucs are impressed with Tyler Johnson's development. I really don't. He had a huge opportunity last season, and he didn't really do anything with it. I mean, you're talking about Chris Godwin going down, AB getting cut. That is a huge opportunity for Tyler Johnson. And he was invisible at times. So I'm not sure they're happy with his development either. So I think right now one of those guys would go. Obviously, if like a Julio Jones is brought in, then you're probably looking at two of the guys going. The Bucs are serious about upgrading their depth of wide receiver. That's why they gave Russell Gage the money they did. They wanted to make sure they upgraded there, and I think they're still going to be looking, maybe most likely, I said, in the draft. But yeah, I do think those two. So if I had to rank them, go Grayson the least. Grayson's the safest, so I guess Grayson would be 1, Tyler Johnson 2, Scotty Moore 3. In terms of, I guess there's like a ghost in your house or something.
I was trying to be slick because like 5 minutes ago, my webcam was out of focus and it's really been bugging me. So I was trying to maybe see if a light could, I was trying to see if a little light from outside a frame could get it to kick back in, and it is not happening. So I'm a little out of focus unless I get really close to the webcam, which I don't want to have to do.
So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe we can call the Ghostbusters in the meantime. We'll have to wait. We'll have to wait and see for training camp. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't expect a guy like Julio Jones to come and kick both of them out, but there will be, like you said, one this offseason, this training camp, somebody's going to get cut that fans recognize the name.
Now, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we talk a little bit more about some transactions they have made. We got a couple of restructures on our hands, and I definitely don't think it's going to be the last we hear of these because we have more than a few to talk about today. But the first of many was tight end Cameron Brate has agreed to restructure his contract to a 2-year, $8 million deal to help the Buccaneers with cap space. Shaq Barrett also restructured his deal right around the same time. I feel like you've got more details on that one than I do. But, the biggest takeaway from this is that clearly everybody has bought in, and they're going to do what they can to help this team be as competitive as possible come week 1.
Yeah, so something I wanted to make clear, a restructure isn't a pay cut, and actually some players might prefer restructures because they're getting their money maybe in some instances sooner. They're actually getting their money like up front a lot as like a bonus and stuff. So Cameron Brate revised a reworked contract. So I mean he's under contract for next season. So I believe his cap hit was supposed to be around $7 million. What's up?
No disrespect at all to Cameron Brate. None whatsoever, because listen, as far as like the longest tenured guys on this offense, you've got Mike Evans, and shortly there behind them, you have got Cameron Brate. Maybe like Donovan Smith is also in that conversation, but how is he still on this roster, dude?
They like him.
They do. He's a great guy. He went to Harvard, right? You kind of get
smart guy.
You kind of get brownie points for that, but John Ledyard from Pewter Report brought up a great point on Twitter, and it's just no disrespect at all to Cam. I love Cam so much. I'm a huge fan of Cam. I always will be. He was a touchdown machine at one point. He was a bigger red zone threat than Mike Evans was at one point. It really felt that way. Like his production hasn't gone up, and he continues to stick around. And I'm not saying he's taken up space because – listen, the guy has sure hands, and that's one thing I like about him is that even though his production has gone down, he always has a few plays a year where you're like, all right, let's go, Cam, But man, I'm just really surprised that he is still here. And then we'll talk about the departure of O.J. Howard here in a second. But Cam Brate, bro, he's still doing his thing. Big 84. He'll be back for the 2022 season, which is always good to hear.
Yeah. So obviously, I think his cap hit was supposed to be around $7 million. And he obviously reworked the deal, so it frees up about $3 million, I believe, in cap space. And then the Shaq Barrett restructuring is a big one. That's supposed to free up around $10 million. Don't ask me like what the restructure is. It's like you move this to a bonus, you move this to this, and then I don't.
We
I just
this
know
guaranteed money and we put it guaranteed for this year.
Yeah, instead of you move it to 2024 and then that becomes prorated. I don't know. But yes, they did do both of those basically at the same time. I mean, it was very, very quickly, not far apart. So they saved a quick 13 million there. But then obviously there were some more moves that they needed to make to get under the cap, and they ended up doing those moves as well. So yeah, but obviously Cameron Brate basically took a pay cut to stay again because he reduced his salary, whereas Shaq Barrett just got his contract restructured. So
as we continue the topic of the Buccaneers tight end room, some huge news regarding a former first-round pick. The Buffalo Bills ended up signing Buccaneers tight end O.J. Howard to a 1-year, $3.5 million deal. With incentives, it goes up to $5 million. So much for my comeback player of the year, right?
Yeah,
that was my guy last year. It seems like I've been picking OJ for like the last 3 years. I've said he's really going to start to bounce back, but injuries, a lack of targets, whatever we can blame it on. At the end of the day, when OJ Howard was on the field for the Buccaneers, he just wasn't a factor, and it's unfortunate because he had some flashes his rookie season. The year after that, he really made some great plays. And it seemed like some of his best plays of his career were in or against Buffalo. So maybe that change of scenery will be exactly what he needed. Hopefully the Bills can get a talented guy. I mean, he's 6'5", runs like a 4.6 40, freakishly athletic. He's not that great of a blocker, but he's the type of tight end where if you give him the room, he'll make some plays. And it looks like he gets to do that with Josh Allen now. So we'll see how that goes for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, injuries really, really hurt him. He had the major one. Actually, he was really good with Brady in 2020 until he got injured.
Yeah, like the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah, it would have been fun to see a full 16-game season from him in 2020, but it just wasn't meant to be. And everybody, I think, pretty much knew that they were moving on. I think. Mr. Jizzle, appreciate the support, man. He said, I'm a Bucs fan new to this channel. Salute to y'all channel and to all the fellow Bucs fans, LFG. Subscribe to the channel too. Y'all fire content. Salute. Appreciate it. So yeah, back to OJ. Yeah, he, like I said, just it's a shame because he has a lot of potential, and I still think he could turn his career around. It just wasn't going to happen in Tampa, and there was maybe he could come back, but when Brady came back, everybody knew that Gronkowski's probably going to come back. So like, why would Howard stay at that rate?
Speaking,
so, yeah, and now he's the best OJ. He's the best OJ to play for the Buffalo Bills. So I mean, isn't he? Yeah.
We got another OJ in a Bills uniform, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully he goes up there and he kills it in that offense.
Yeah.
Our buddy John actually brought something up, and I wanted to mention this. They said Tom Brady's making like $10-11 million a year this season. For a lot of the people who are not caught up, how is that possible, Evan? And then, of course, shout out to our guy, Willie Beeman, with the $20 super chat. We will read that in 1 second. I pinky promise. But really quickly, the Tom Brady salary, he's always been a team player, but I mean, clearly he's doing his part this season as well to make sure the Bucs can get as many of these guys in here as they can.
Well, I believe his salary for that was already it was always supposed to be 11 million. It wasn't just something they just changed. He could still restructure, but I think a lot of his salary came in bonuses, so his cap hit was always supposed to be 11 million. So he, like I said, he could still restructure. So we'll have to wait and see if that happens. Restructure, extension, whatever. That's a possibility for them to create cap space. So we'll have to wait and see.
Willie Beeman with the $20 super chat says, "Hey guys, sending my 20 to the Wendy's fun. I like linebacker Christian Harris. He can drop in coverage, tackle, and rush the quarterback from the edge. 4.44 in the 40. He could be Levante David's replacement someday. Roger McCreary also has nice ball skills as well." Your thoughts on both of those guys?
I like Harris. Don't know if I would pick him in the first round, and I don't know if he's going to be there in the second. McCreary, doesn't fit their profile much, but I mean, they do need that type of ball hawk. So, yeah, I mean, it could make some sense. It definitely could make some sense. That would probably be a first round guy. I doubt he's going to be around the second. So, both those names make a ton of sense. I keep an eye on both, but I'm not sure about McCrary's fit with the defense.
As we wrap up our conversation about the tight end room, we mentioned him briefly. We'll talk about him again, but Rob Gronkowski has yet to sign another contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He is still technically a free agent. There was a video that came out yesterday of him in a Bay Area barbershop, which honestly was really cool to see. But he was kind of messing around with everybody in there. They asked him if he was going to be coming back, if he's going to be re-signing with the Bucs, and he said, quote, "There is a very good chance he will be back for the Bucs." The joke that he made is that, well, Tom Brady kind of made him sweat it out for a couple of months, so he's going to do the same thing to him. It seems like it's all but confirmed that Gronk's going to be back. He's doing it on his own time. He'll sign when he signs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's coming, pretty soon. It should be within the next few days. I don't think there's going to be much there. And obviously the Bills, who were one of the teams that were interested in Gronkowski, pivoted to OJ Howard. So, I mean, it sounds like maybe the Bengals were the other team Gronkowski had interest in, but I don't know. As long as Tom Brady's playing in the NFL, I have a hard time believing Gronkowski's going to go elsewhere. So I think it's just a matter of time. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, well, the biggest deal of free agency so far for Tampa Bay, one that a lot of people have been waiting on pins and needles for. Franchise player Chris Godwin reached agreement on a 3-year, $60 million deal that includes $40 million fully guaranteed at signing. This is a huge deal. One, because we've been waiting for it for so long, and we kind of came to the conclusion that if the Buccaneers didn't get a long-term deal done with Chris Godwin this offseason, there probably wasn't going to be a long-term deal to be had. The two sides agree. Godwin, unfortunately, makes a little bit less money than Christian Kirk, but it is what it is. It's a team player taking a team-friendly deal. I mean, I guess as team-friendly as it can be with this rampant wide receiver market, but really good to see Chris Godwin locked into the red and pewter for the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's a win-win, I think, for both sides. From Godwin's perspective, he gets to hit the market again in 3 short years.
It's almost like the Carlton Davis deal. I feel like we literally said all of the same stuff on the last episode about Carlton Davis and his 3-year deal.
Yeah, absolutely. But with Godwin, it's a little bit more complex with the whole franchise tag thing. So we'll get into that. But Godwin gets to hit the market again. He'll be in his prime, just like Davis.
When he hits the market in 3 years, his value is going to be like $29 million. The way that this market is.
Yeah. Well, no, and the salary cap's going to keep going
cap's
up.
Going back up.
29 million won't be absurd by that point. So yeah, I mean, now let's talk about the franchise tag. So one of the reasons it's a huge win for the Bucs is because this gives them cap relief. 19 million was the franchise tag number. We talked about it. We said that the reason why it wasn't great for the Bucs that they had to do this with Godwin was because that is 19 million right off the cap. There is no way to structure that. There is no way to put that into a signing bonus and do this and do that. That is 19 million, right? If you get a long-term deal done, you can spread that stuff out. So the Bucs added some voided years, and now his cap hit for 2022 is just $5 million. So they saved $14 million by signing him to a long-term contract this season. That was the big win for Tampa Bay. Not only do they get to keep him for 3 more years, they got $14 million in cap relief.
Gotta give it up one more time for this Buccaneers front office.
That's right.
Jason Light, Mike Greenberg, Jackie Davidson. The fact that Chris Godwin
John
signed
Spytek, all of them.
$60 million deal and his cap hit for this season is $5 million. Come on, dude.
Yeah.
It's almost unfair.
It's the same exact deal that Mike Williams signed from the Chargers, and it's notable because Mike Williams and Chris Godwin have the same agent. So it's the same exact deal for the same exact agent. But the Chargers didn't use any voidable years, I don't believe. So Williams' cap hit in year 1, I think, is 14 million rather than 20 million. So Godwin's is 15. I'm sorry, 5. So Yeah, it was a huge win, I think, for both sides. So like I said, it allows Godwin to hit the open market again before he's 30, and it allows the Bucs cap relief now and to keep, one of their best wide receivers, a top 15, 20 wide receiver in the game, to keep him with Mike Evans for the next 3 seasons. It was a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, speaking of Mike Evans, this is the latest transaction from Tampa Bay, and it's almost a yearly story at this point. But the Buccaneers are once again restructuring Mike Evans' contract to free up some additional cap space. Some of his $14 million base salary for 2022 was converted to a bonus, and they worked to re-sign more of his teammates. He has done this several times on his current deal already. So, there isn't a whole lot to say here except for shout out to Mike Evans, the ultimate team player, God, in Bucs history. I can't imagine, or I can't even think of off the top of my head, a player who has restructured his contract as many times as Mike Evans has. Seriously, it's a yearly story at this point that we get something coming out about Mike Evans moving some money around so the Bucs can make some more signings.
I know somebody. Are you talking about just Bucs or just NFL?
Oh, I was just going to say Bucs, but if you've got NFL, I feel like I know who you're going to say.
Yeah, it's Tom Brady.
Yeah,
he's
Buccaneers legend, Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, he is.
Buccaneers legend, by the way, who is 25 touchdowns away from breaking the all-time franchise record for passing touchdowns in Buccaneers history. Brady is currently at 96, and the record is with Jameis Winston at 121. So since Tom Brady has averaged 40 effing touchdowns a year since he came here, I kind of feel like this is something he's going to be able to get done this year, and that's also very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and the move creates about $10 million in cap space. So again, just moving stuff around. Like I said, it's not a pay cut. A lot of people seem to think, it's a pay cut, but it's not. But it still is nice that they're able to do this, and it just speaks to all the years leading up to this, right? Eventually, this is going to catch up to the Bucs. Eventually it is. In 3 to 4 years, it is. However, the previous 3 to 4 years that they've spent with free agency and how they've spent their money has allowed them to have this type of flexibility. So that's the positive, right? The negative is that eventually you got to pay the piper. Eventually something's got to happen. Something's got to give. But the positive is the way that they have managed the cap up to this point, up to the last 2 years, was so good that now they are able to finally do this, and they might not even be done. There's a potential for a Donovan Smith, extension, maybe restructure. There's a potential for a Tom Brady extension / restructure. Now, I have seen some people say that, Tom Brady probably wouldn't want an extension. I agree. I do think that Brady would prefer to maybe keep his options open. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it's the Bucs or retirement. And you're probably right, I think. But, after toward the 2022 season, I don't think Brady wants to have a commitment anywhere else. I think he just wants to make sure that he has his options as wide open as possible. An extension wouldn't make that possible. So maybe they are going to restructure his contract. They could do that and lower his cap hit to save some money. So we'll have to wait and see. We will have to wait and see. The Bucs aren't completely done, and they still have, obviously, Gronkowski's going to take up some. Gronkowski is going to take up a little bit of space. We'll talk a little bit about some other guys, maybe like
let's talk about the running back room really quickly, because it seems like that's the area of this team that we have had the least amount of news on. Our buddy Lee Ayers brings it up in the live chat. He says, hey guys, what are we thinking about the running back situation? A couple of people have asked about Leonard Fournette so far in this live stream, and we mentioned Fournette on the last episode, and I think the idea here is still pretty similar. It's kind of up to him if he really wants to look for the market he thinks he deserves, or is he going to take a pay cut to stay in Tampa Bay and potentially win another ring with Tom Brady? And I guess that's just where it sits, right? I mean, I guess there's a couple of other guys we can talk about. You know who I actually thought about today? And nobody has spoken a peep about him. I think I saw maybe one person tweet about it. But Le'Veon Bell. And I only bring this up because I don't think he's back. I feel like he's probably done playing football because he was going to be boxing before he signed with Tampa Bay last season. So I don't think he's back. But, like, if he is, I don't know, man. I wouldn't mind seeing him in this offense again. He seemed like he fit right in towards the end of the season. Seeing as he was kind of a Band-Aid signing, I thought he was fine. But I was just thinking about him today. That's all.
I think he's done.
You think he's cooked? Is that what you wanted to say? He's washed.
He's cooked. He's done. He's just like their quarterback. Inside joke, folks. We're not saying that Tom Brady is done.
Yeah, chances are we got a lot of new viewers in here today. So firstly, thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. Subscribe if you have not already. Plenty of great Buccaneers content and much more throughout the rest of the offseason.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. I mean, yeah, just your overall thoughts though on the Buccaneers running back situation and maybe the next update we'll hear.
Yeah, obviously, Leonard Fournette, he was on the market for a little bit last year as well. It's going to be something to where his market may dictate, if he comes back. I don't think, obviously the Bucs aren't giving him what he wants, or else he would have re-signed already. So clearly the Bucs and him are at a different number, and we'll have to wait and see. But, obviously you also, not only Leonard Fournette, you have Giovanni Bernard, you have Ronald Jones. I would be shocked if Ronald Jones came back, but I do think there's a chance. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think if I had to guess on like the next bit of news we're going to get regarding the running backs, it'll probably be Ronald Jones signing with another team.
Weiss, no, he said, I'm new here. Did he just say Tom Brady is washed? It's a joke.
It's a running gag, my friend. I promise you that nobody on the show actually thinks Brady is washed. It's funny to say it, right? Because analysts are getting paid a lot of money every single week to say that he's washed just for him to go be first in every passing category at 44 years old.
Yeah. But yeah, I think you're just gonna have to wait and see on Fournette. Jones will be elsewhere, and then Bernard may come back. There's a lot of still running backs out there. There's David Johnson, who obviously has a lot of familiarity with Bruce Arians. Sony Michel has a lot of familiarity with Tom Brady. Cordero Patterson, if they wanted to get like a kind of wide receiver running back hybrid.
Yeah, that's a familiarity sexy signing right there. Cordero Patterson.
Has familiarity with Brady as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of options still out there. So I don't expect anything imminent with Leonard Fournette. I think they're going to wait it out and then see what happens. If he does come back, I mean, yeah, Alex mentioned in the chat, Rashard Penny, he's a guy who could be interesting. He hasn't really been healthy a lot, but when he's but when he's been healthy, he's been good. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think, like I said, I don't think anything's going to happen soon, and I think it's going to happen eventually, but we should hear some news on at least some of the Bucs running backs that are free agents within the next week or so, probably.
If you guys in the live chat have any questions about somebody in particular, drop it as we start to wrap things up here. But Evan, I wanted to rack your brain on one more possibility, and you want to talk about adding fuel to the fire. There has been plenty of that this week, but Evan, you just returned from a vacation in Florida. There is a certain NFL free agent on vacation in Florida, and he isn't just on vacation in Florida. He is on vacation with Todd Bowles' daughter, right? He's married to Todd Bowles' daughter-in-law, or it's like...
He's married to Todd Bowles' niece.
Gotcha.
And that would be free agent safety Tyrann Mathieu.
Listen, I know that the forefront of this conversation is going to be money. But the money conversation aside, we'll have that in a minute. But like, how do you feel about Tyrann Mathieu? Bucs just lost Jordan Whitehead. That's a huge loss. Yes, you still have Mike Edwards. Yes, you still have Antoine Winfield Jr., but a veteran presence back there in that safety room like Tyrann Mathieu, it's obviously a fit. He has the connection with Bruce Arians. We talked about him last season as well. But also just the idea of him being on the same team as Tom Brady after chirping at him in the Super Bowl is kind of a wild thought. So this is a fun one to think about. I'm curious to hear what you think.
Yeah, so quick shout out to the over 230 people we have watching right now. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, so yeah, Tyrann Mathieu's on vacation. He's married to Todd Bowles' niece. He was on vacation with Todd Bowles' two sons and his stepdaughter. So obviously there's a fit, just like you said, there's a fit there. And you mentioned it's funny, obviously it'd be hilarious if like with the beef and everything that Brady and him had. It would be funny. Jenna Lane did send out a tweet yesterday. There's a family. Todd Bowles considers Tyrann Mathieu family, not just the Bruce Arians connection. Bruce Arians loves Tyrann Mathieu. Bruce Arians said that Tyrann Mathieu was his favorite draft pick ever. And then that Jenna Lane was told that any beef from Super Bowl 55 between Tom Brady and Matthew was squashed when Brady sent Matthew an apology text. The two have a great friendship. She said, I haven't heard anything on this front. I don't know what Matthew's asking price is. Could be too high for a team to use 3 safeties last year. I do know Tom loves to recruit, and there's a real fondness there, though. So, we'll have to wait and see. I personally would doubt it because, like you talked about, you have to bring up the money, and I think that's why it wouldn't happen. I would be surprised if it ended up happening, just because. I think he's going to want a little bit too much. I just think he's going to want a little bit too much. And maybe he does take a 1 year, try and win a ring type deal, with Bruce Arians, a coach we respects, and Todd Bowles in a defense that he's very familiar with. But if I had to bet, I would say probably not. But, can never completely rule it out, I don't think.
We got a question from Charles in the live chat about another Buccaneer defensive back, Richard Sherman. What is the deal with Richard Sherman? There was actually a report from Dov Kleiman, I think is how you say his name. Dov Kleiman?
Yeah.
D-O-V? Dov? His name
is
Dov?
Most of the time he just takes reports and like tweets them. But
right. Well, he had put a report out that Richard Sherman retired, and he was the only person who put that report out. Richard Sherman liked the tweet, liked the report, acknowledged it, but Richard Sherman himself has not made it clear whether or not he's going to be back for the 2022 season, whether it's in Tampa Bay or it's for any other team. I don't know what the future holds for Sherm, but if I had to guess, I think he probably will retire.
Yeah, I think he's done. Sherman's a podcaster now. Sherman's had the podcast this whole time.
Hey, it's a great podcast, by the way.
The whole time he was playing with the Bucs, he announced he was signing with the Bucs on his podcast. So he's that's not like a signal for anything. But yeah, I think he's done. So Willie with a quick question. He said, if Godwin didn't get that extension, do you think Tyrann would be more likely or no? I actually think that Godwin's extension makes it possible for something like that to happen. If it wasn't going to happen, if Godwin was going to sit at 19 million as a cap hit, I think it would have been almost impossible. So.
We've seen this dude in the live chat a couple of times, but our good buddy BB says, I don't care what Shaq Mason is ranked at. I watched that dude's entire career as a Patriot. Having him next to Tristan Wirfs will be great for him. By far the best right tackle he's ever been next to. And I have to just assume that BB is Bill Belichick, right?
Yeah.
Screen name BB in the live chat now talking about watching Shaq Mason's entire career in New England. I mean, who else but Bill Belichick, right?
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, Bill. Appreciate it. Yeah, so didn't Matthew say he wanted to get a massive contract? I don't think he said that, but like that's one of the reasons he hasn't returned to Kansas City. He made his cap hit was 14 million for last season. I don't think he's going to get 14 million as a cap hit with any team next season. If I had to guess, he would sign a 2-3 year deal, maybe like 10 mil a year as a cap hit with somebody. I just don't think the Bucs will have that type of money. So.
John Samuelson, go Bucks from Wichita, Kansas. Adam Davies, our good buddy, the moderator, holding it down. Our buddy from Bucks UK as well. Great question. Any of you guys heading to Germany for the international game? It has been confirmed the Bucks are going to be one of the first NFL teams to play a game in Munich, Germany next season. Evan, are you going? Because, listen, I know what my budget looks like. I'm probably not going to be in Germany this fall, but I don't know. Mr. Big Bank over here, what do you think about that trip?
Wouldn't count on it. would not count on it. I don't think I'm going to be heading to Munich this fall. And we don't know what who the opponent is. It's rumored to be the Chiefs, but we won't know that official until the schedule comes out. So, whatever happened to John Brown? Didn't we sign him for a game? The Bucs signed him for the playoffs. He didn't play much. That happens.
I don't think he saw the field at all in a Bucs uniform. If I remember correctly,
he played a few snaps.
Did he?
Yeah. If not Matthew, who do you think they pick up? Gilmore, anyone else? I wouldn't expect. I think if there's gonna be a higher tier free agent left that they're gonna sign, it would be somebody like a Fletcher Cox or a Tyrann Mathieu. I don't think it's gonna be a Stephon Gilmore or a, Casey Hayward was out there until today when the Falcons signed him. I don't think there's gonna be a big big.
This isn't a target for the Bucs at all, but Zadarius Smith pulling out of his deal with the Ravens.
Yeah,
that was pretty wild.
Well, that's happened. Like Randy Gregory pulled out a deal with the Cowboys.
Pulled a 180.
JD McKissick pulled out a deal with the Bills. It's happened a lot this offseason. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. It should be interesting. We'll be talking to you guys sometime in the next few days. I'm sure there's going to be a few more stuff out, I'm sure, this weekend. But for now, it's been roughly quiet on the Bucs front today, but doesn't mean stuff's not happening. Just because you don't here's my point. Just because you don't hear about it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Here is my conclusion, because I know that we do have a lot of new viewers today, closing in on 300 people over on YouTube. Thank you guys so much. This is one of the biggest audiences we have ever had in show history. We've been doing this show since 2016. And we have talked about a lot of Bucs football. Hold on, I lost my spot. But a quick question from our guy Uno in the chat. He said, "How long have you guys been Bucs fans?" And I will tell you, full disclosure, I started watching the Buccaneers every single week in 2006. Chris Sims was my quarterback. Or at least he was the backup at the time. I think that was the year we had Jeff Garcia. So yeah, I've been watching since then. Watched the end of the Gruden regime, Raheem Morris coming in, Greg Schiano, Lovie Smith, Dirk Cutter, you name it. We've been there. We've been watching some bad Bucs football for a little while now. But luckily, our Lord and Savior Tom Brady came in. But ladies and gentlemen, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, 2011. Just to answer the question really quick, just some stuff in the chat I got to address.
No, you're good.
One, I don't think they're targeting Cole Beasley. It's not like I just don't see it as a fit. Somebody else said they need a corner, but Jamel Dean isn't cutting it. They need to sign Gilmore. Jamel Dean's actually good. They say that the Bucs are going to play in their old uniforms this season. Is this true? No, it is not true. That is 2023, not 2022. So they are not playing in their creamsicle uniforms this season.
I think listen, there isn't a bad thing about Brady coming back, but if I did have to pick one, that would be it. Not only the fact that, we kind of thought he was going to be retired less than one season away from the return of the creamsicle, but now we get this garbage excuse of supply shortage, whatever, and they're gonna have to push it back till 2023. That bums me out.
Yeah. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody. Appreciate it. We had a lot. We got 288 people in here watching right now. Really, great show, and we're excited to get back into the swing of things, and I hope you're all along for the ride. We appreciate the support, and Bucs aren't done, I'm sure. There's still some work to be done. Then you got the draft right after it. So
this is what I was going to say before, and I'll wrap it up with this. Given the nature of our podcast that we have done for years, for a lot of the people who have watched us for years, and there's a few of them in the live chat, that typically, whenever we talk about potential breaking news for the Buccaneers,
some Bucs news,
or expecting some Bucs news, usually it happens like 10 to 15 minutes after we wrap up our live stream. Yes. So honestly, if you guys are waiting for another headline regarding the Bucs, you're probably going to get something today. But I just have this awful gut feeling that within an hour after we end this podcast, we're going to get some news about some incredible signing. But listen, that's the nature of the business. And you know what? We'll make it work.
And you know what? Yeah, if we do, you'll see us again tonight. That's just how that'll go. It's, ask us about how we handled the Rob Gronkowski thing, where we ended a draft show, and then literally 10 minutes later, Rob Gronkowski was traded to the Bucs. So we went on live again for another hour and a half. So yeah, that's what we're referring to. And typically that happens. So yeah, you could be seeing us again tonight. Who knows? But we appreciate all you guys watching anyways.
Yeah, it's been an exciting week. Very excited, to say the least, about what is yet to come. The Bucs are not done. Tom Brady is not done recruiting guys to Tampa, and we will see what happens. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just about going to do it for this episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Big shout out to every single person over on YouTube right now hanging out with us. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Plenty of great Buccaneers content. And we have got so much more than just the podcast you're watching right now. We got a series called Buried Bucs Treasure, where we go and we take a look at some vintage Buccaneers gear, collections, and anything we can find. It's a really cool thing that we do with our guy, Mr. Bucs Nation. We've also got hype videos, which do pretty well. So if that's your thing, make sure you go check that out. I have a lot of fun making those as well. Follow the show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. Speaking of Bucs news as it happens, you can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_daily, the #1 Buccaneers fan page on Instagram. Words are hard. I said it at the beginning of the show. Yep. It still rings true all the way to the end. Words are tough sometimes, but we're going to get through it. Oh, let's go!
Mikey, with one more right before we end.
Yeah, Mikey with the $2 super chat. He says, "Is this something you guys know, or are you just guessing?" No, we're just guessing, man.
We're just guessing because that typically that's what happens.
Yeah, it's just based off of prior experience. We don't know anything that's gonna happen. I promise. We're not withholding any info from you guys. It's just usually the luck of the draw. So hopefully we're wrong today, and hopefully we did a good recap of all the Buccaneer news. But of course, if there is more, we will keep you guys on it. Last but not least, you can find myself, Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. But folks, that's the show. We'll talk to you in the next one. Subscribe to the channel for more great Buccaneers content to keep you busy between now and then. Just make sure I just make sure I covered everything. We hit everything. We hit all the bullet points. We're good, man. We can wrap this thing up. Thank you guys once again for watching. We really do appreciate you. Until then, and as always, I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish. We'll talk to you in the next one. Go Bucs.